Welcome back to my channel, everybody. My name is Melinda and I do DIY arts. And today I'm going to show you guys how I made Desertville Link, but with a little surprise at the end. So if you want to see it, stick around and let's get into it. So the first thing I did was to make the armature with foil and armature wire. I just bulked out the foil with thin strips of clay just to add the bulk for the details later. And then you just smooth it out. Gently smooth it out until you have the defined shape of a torso. Add the pectorals. This is my first time really working with the male anatomy, so please don't be mad at me if I screw it up. Next up is a little ball of clay for the head with a snake for a chin. Just blend that in. I prefer to start from the chin because I feel that's the focal point when it comes to most drawings and sculpting. And you just make a little line. You don't want to go too deep. And of course, a couple more snakes for the lips. And gently blend them in. Just enough so they look seamless, but at the same time, they're a part of the face, so they have to have definition. Same thing for the bottom. And then use a little triangle of clay and just gently smooth it in. This is my first time sculpting Link, so hoping this goes good. And I just made some eye holes for the pupils and eyeballs. You just want to make sure his face is smooth, because oh my god. You can make the Kardashians look pimply in comparison. So next up are the trousers. And yes, the torso will be attached, but that won't come until later. So for now, just add some definition, but not a whole lot, and blend those seams in. And then I created these, well, strips, I guess, for the belts. And I know this oven bake clay adhesive is primarily used for gluing pre-baked pieces together, but I tend to overthink, so better safe than sorry. Then add some definition to the pants, give them a top and a backing, just so it doesn't look like he's wearing a swimsuit. Then use some armature wire just to get a depth of how far the shins are going to be. And you pretty much just make tapered snakes. Remove the wire, add the glue, jam the wire into the calves, and then stick them back in where they're supposed to be. And just shape them up a little bit so you have accurate definitions. And the next part is the arm. For this, his right arm is going to be up in the air, and you'll see why later. For now, I'm going to keep it a little bit of a surprise, because then, well, you won't want to watch the rest of this. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if you didn't, but at the same time, just give it a chance. So I know people complain about doing hands, but I personally love doing them because each hand is different. They each have their own definitions, and in the case of Link, he had pretty elegant hands for a guy. As I was sculpting, I realized that the back was just a bit thin, so I added a little pancake of clay, blended that in, added some definitions, and it looked a heck of a lot better than what I started with. So I just poke a hole into the torso, blend the arm in, And yes, that is a homemade sculpting tool made from Sculpey clay, a wire, and Cos clay, because Cos clay is really flexible once it's cured. Now for the next part, I just did the sleeve for the shoulder guard, or pauldron, I guess it's called. At any rate, just use snakes and lightly blend them. And now we're going to make the guard part. This part was kind of difficult for me to do, especially since I've never done armor, especially one so detailed as the Vo armor that he wears in the game, but I was determined to do my best. So let me know in the comments below whether you thought I did good or if there's something I need to improve on, because I feel like I do need to improve, but that's kind of the point of making these sculptures. I'm learning as I go. But if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to list them down and I'll take them into consideration. So now we just make the armband and gently blend in where it was cut, because obviously you want this to pop out, and just keep adding details from the armor. I was having a hard time with the decorative part of the armor though, so as you can see, my first attempt wasn't very good, so that was a lesson that I learned pretty quickly. But I just kept going with it and fixing it up. But I had a better idea. Don't know why I didn't use it for this part, but lesson learned. Now we're going to do the arm guards. They're basically just tapered rectangles. So you cut out a flat pancake in an oval shape and then cut them down to size. And then once I had that, I removed them. I didn't glue them on or anything. And then I made the straps, placed the piece back on, and it seems to work. So I did it with the second guard, and I really liked how it turned out. So I pretty much did the same thing for the shin guards too. Using my ball stylus, I etched in the details that are seen on the armor. I thought they turned out pretty cute. And then the second hand, this one's going to be a fist. I kind of messed it up a little bit, but I was spending so much time on the sculpture already that I was just like, okay, I'll do better next time. And now for the shoes, they're pretty much just triangles with a rounded end. So, yeah. Using a flat pancake of clay, I covered half of it where the shoe makes a point and blended the sides in a little bit, but not too much. And then I added a strip of clay, cut them to size, and added some of the finer cuts to make it look like the sandals you'd see in the game. When I first saw these through my first playthrough, I honestly thought that these shoes looked really cute. So who knows, maybe I'll make a set for myself for the summer. That'd be something. So once I had both shoes made, I attached them via glue. And now we're on to the skirts. I'm not sure if that's actually what it's called, but you know, just for the sake of the video, we're just gonna call it the underskirt. And see, this is where my idea for the decorative swirl pattern that you see on them come into play. So I just rolled out a snake here, and I twirled the ends just so and then put them on to make it look like separate pieces rather than one whole one. And that technique worked a lot better for me, so I guess that's one lesson that'll come in handy at a later date. So then I just added a top layer of clay to make the fabric that is seen, fix that little error that I didn't like, and then using my knife I cut in an angle in the center of the fabric, and then used my ballpoint stylus just to give some depth. I could have used cosplay for this part, but I was running low, so I had to make do with what I had. And then it's time for the belts. Pretty simple. Just cut little divots in a square shape. And then I made the centerpiece that goes on the belts. Just placing it gently because I didn't want to squish up the details that I put in. More glue, the centerpiece, and then once more with the ball stylus, I'll put a divot into it because that's where the gemstone is going to go. I have a lot of acrylic gems and I have just the perfect one for that. So then poke a couple holes in the shoulder guard, add the attachment, this little guy right here, and then another snake, cut off its head, and gently press it down into place because you don't want to deform the attachments. And just make sure that it's nice and secure while also making it look like it's attached. Yeah, I have to say that the swirl idea works a lot better than what I had previously tried to do. I mean, they were a little bulkier than I planned, but then again, I'm not really planning how I do this. Images kind of just pop into my head. Speaking of heads, we are going to attach links. So poke a hole to the top of his torso, add the neck and the wire, blend that into the head, and then attach it to his body. Then once that's all smoothed out and ready to go, we're going to add some collarbone definitions and the hollow at his throat. And using little flat pancakes, just add that circular definition of the arm guards. And then he's ready to be baked. So once that's done, we'll add some of the finer details, like the strap for his scabbard. And yes, he is going to have weapons attached, and there'll be another little surprise about them, which you'll see towards the end. So then we're going to make the buckle. Gotta make sure it's cut to size, because otherwise it won't fit. And I realized that I forgot to add another strap to make it look like one solid piece. Oh well, that'll come later. And then add his necklace, and then we can start on his hair. I know he kind of looks like Johnny Bravo right now, but once that's gone, now he's looking more like he's got a bald spot. So gently smooth over the surface with any tool you have, add the headband, and then snakes once more for his bangs and sideburns. And that's when I realized I forgot to give him his ears. How is he supposed to hear his enemies if he doesn't have ears? So I fixed that, added some finer details to his sideburns, just making them look like they had more strands than they actually are visible. Add the band for his hair, then add finer details to the rest of the snake's, his hair, and then we're on to his little bun. I just squished some more snakes together and lifted them up, and then baked all of it again. And then once everything was baked, I attached it via super glue. I like using Gorilla Glue because that stuff works really well, or gel super glue. That also works. And that's when I realized I didn't give him his eyeballs, and this was right before I started painting him. Anyway, just use air dried clay and glue and it'll be fine. So for the base I used black paint and Mod Podge, which I thought made the colors pop out really nicely. So I added orange and yellow together to make gold for the gold bits and pieces, red for the belt straps, green for the pauldron, and just kind of everywhere really. There's a lot of gold detail that's on this outfit, especially that necklace. Kind of makes me want one too. So who knows, maybe I'll make one at a later date. I know some people would tell me that colored clay would work better for this, but at the same time, I love the idea of challenging myself by painting, because then I feel like I'm actually doing something to bring these sculptures to life, you know? Anyway, for his hair, it's a mix of brown and that golden blonde color that I was using. I thought it turned out really well. And then I dry brushed a mix of pink and sun-kissed peach for his cheeks and bottom lip, some darker tones, kind of everywhere really. I wanted him to have that 3D look that you'd see in the game, but without adding too much detail. So by dry brushing a little bit of a darker shade than his skin color, I thought it made all the little details pop out pretty nicely. And yes, I am using the sharp end of my sculpting tool to add some definition to his lips, but I thought it worked out pretty good, even though he looks kind of dead right now. So let's fix that with some dark blue, followed by a lighter blue, and then black pupils and white dots for his eyes. That's better. Now for the finer details. There's a lot of it on his armor, but I really like the color scheme that it had. Gray for the base, and then kind of like a dark purple for the symbols on his pants. And now for the surprise! That's right, folks. I am making a Bokoblin for Link to fight. It's pretty much the same process as Link, so I won't go into too much detail, but I figured I'd at least show you how I made the head, since it's slightly different, and this time I remembered the eyeball, so thank goodness for that. At any rate, it's just a simple matter of blending in the snake, and then squishing the middle, give it that definition that you'd see in the game. Same thing for the eyelids. He is looking kind of angry right now. You'll find out why later. And of course he gets his adorable floppy ears. Of course, using my homemade shaper and the ball stylus. And there you have it. Then poke some holes into his torso and spaces for his legs. I felt that his arms were too short, so I fixed it with different lengths of wire, and then I baked them before I started working on the arms. Mostly because I was afraid of deforming his ears as I went, because I tend to bump things as I go. But so far, everything seems to be going good. And of course, the Sheikah slate. I mean, Link wouldn't be complete without it at this point. So for the rest of the Bokoblin, I'll bake him again, and then get started on his feet. He doesn't have 5 toes, he just has 2. So that made things a little easier. And of course, 3-fingered hands and nails will be added later. And of course, teeth, because what bokoblin doesn't have teeth? He has this adorable skull necklace that he wears, so I made that out of clay. And I thought that turned out pretty cute, and I was like, huh, I'll have to make something like that for Halloween. Now here is where I used the Cause clay. I felt that the flexibility of Cause clay would be better for something like this, since Link's armor is meant to be tough. So why not use Cause clay for our little bokoblin friend's outfit? There's his toes and his fingernails. I think you guys can guess what color he is. So just attach the skull and give him this cute little turquoise colored nose and mouth. And of course, brown paints and that black Mod Podge that I was using earlier really helps out with the nails, filling in of the mouth, and also coloring in his bokoblin outfit. So basically just a black base. Of course his form gets colored, and we gotta get his eyes. That's creepy. And this time I used Mod Podge with the white paint, so it really stuck on there a lot better. And of course some cured Cause clay glued onto the skull. And he has his teeth, and he's pretty much set to go. Now for the base. I meant to use my white sand, but I put it away. Don't know why I did that, but oh well. Had to make do with what I had, which was this brown sand. And then get this. I actually found out that these markers I have are great for detail work like this, especially once it's had time to dry. And then once it dries, I can just spray it with acrylic sealant and it won't run. So that really helped with the detail work. And of course there are the gemstones. The Sheikah slate gets attached to Link's belt right there. And then I just glued him onto the face once it was dry and free of other sand. And of course the bokoblin gets electrified. So by using hot glue, I made aftershocks from the attack. And of course I made a radiant shield and the scimitar. And yes, it does come out of its sheath. Surprise! So once that's all said and done, we'll glue them into place. And we are on to our glamour shots. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed what I showed. If you did like it, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my latest crafts. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get this out today, but I'm so glad I did. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next craft. Alright? Cheers!